Imagine this: a man cleaning out his old desk drawer, tossing spare change into a jar. Among the pennies, one stood out, darker, worn, nothing special at first glance. But that little coin, a 1979 Lincoln penny, would soon leave coin experts speechless. What he didn't realize was that it had a secret so rare it could turn a single cent into a life-changing fortune. Now, most people think all 1979 pennies are common. After all, billions were made. You can still find them in circulation today, jingling in pockets and hiding under couch cushions. But here's where the story takes a sharp turn. Because one tiny mistake, one invisible error, changed everything for a handful of these coins. See, in 1979, the Denver Mint struck millions of pennies with a small D mint mark. That letter shows it was made in Denver. Simple, right? But a few slipped through the presses without that mint mark. No D. No trace of where it came from. Just Lincoln's face on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. A mysterious orphan coin in the minting world. But here's what makes it truly mind-blowing. When collectors first spotted these 1979 no mint mark pennies, they thought it was just wear and tear. A faded D, maybe. But under magnification, the truth hit them like a thunderbolt. There was never a mint mark there at all. The die itself, the metal stamp that presses the coin's design, had been improperly prepared. It was an unmarked Denver die, used by accident, and suddenly, something once worth 1 cent became worth a small fortune. Collectors were stunned. Dealers started whispering about it at coin shows. Prices started climbing quietly, then exploded when one pristine 1979 penny, missing its mint mark, crossed the auction block. Bidding began modestly, but as the room filled with tension, the price kept climbing. $50,000, then $200,000, until the hammer finally dropped just under $1 million. The man who owned it said he found it while sorting through his old coin jars. "I almost spent it on coffee," he laughed later. But the truth is, he could have bought the coffee shop with what that penny was worth. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, treasure hunters everywhere began checking their spare change. Pawn shops, antique stores, and even banks saw a sudden rush of people asking for penny rolls. Everyone wanted a shot at finding this elusive 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Some collectors even claim there are still a few undiscovered examples out there, sitting unnoticed in circulation, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot them. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people don't realize that not every missing mint mark makes a coin valuable. In some years, like 1982 or 1990, missing marks were caused by simple polishing errors. But in 1979, it was different. This wasn't a polished-away letter. It was never there to begin with. That makes it one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck by the U.S. Mint. Dealers are still debating how many exist. Some say fewer than 10 were ever released. Others believe a small batch, maybe 50 or 100, escaped detection before the mistake was caught. Either way, that's out of billions made, making it rarer than some gold coins. But here's the kicker most people don't know. The only way to confirm you have one of these is to look closely, and I mean really closely. Use a magnifying glass or even a jeweler's loupe. Look just below the date on the front of the coin. Normally, you'll see a small letter D for Denver. If it's missing completely, with no trace of scratching, fading, or polishing, you might just be staring at a piece of American minting history. But don't stop there. The color and luster of the coin can also tell a story. The most valuable examples are bright, reddish copper, and show almost no signs of wear. If you find one that looks uncirculated, crisp edges, sharp details on Lincoln's beard, and a clean reverse with clear lines on the memorial, you could be holding a coin worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even that legendary $1 million mark. And it's not just about luck. It's about knowing what to look for. Many people have let these treasures slip right through their fingers, spending them without a second thought. Some were used in vending machines. Others got rolled back into banks. Every single one of them, a potential fortune, lost to time. But here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race. Nobody knows exactly how many are still out there. Some experts believe a handful might be sitting in forgotten piggy banks or tucked away in the back of a dresser drawer, waiting for that one lucky person who looks just a little closer. Next time you're holding a 1979 penny, don't dismiss it. Check it. Study it. Look for that missing D. Because that single detail could be the difference between pocket change and a life-changing discovery. Collectors have seen it happen before. Everyday people turning loose change into life-changing money. A janitor in Ohio found one and paid off his mortgage. A retiree in Florida discovered one in a coin roll he bought for fun and ended up selling it for more than he made in an entire year. This is the kind of story that keeps collectors up at night. The idea that history, luck, and fortune can all fit into something small enough to lose under your couch. The 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny remains one of the most mysterious and valuable coins of its era. A symbol of how even the smallest mistake can turn ordinary into extraordinary. But instead, it made one man a millionaire. The 1971 Lincoln penny, a coin so common most people wouldn't give it a second glance, has stunned the coin world with a version worth up to $1.1 million. And the reason why? It's hidden in the tiniest detail, invisible to most eyes, until you know exactly where to look. It all began in San Francisco in 1971. The mint was producing millions of proof pennies, perfectly polished coins meant for collectors. But in that massive sea of copper, something strange happened. A small batch of coins left the mint with a flaw so rare that only a handful are known to exist today. And those few surviving coins are now among the most valuable pennies in American history. Now here's where it gets interesting. One of these million-dollar pennies was discovered completely by accident, by a man going through an old proof set he bought for just a few bucks at a yard sale. He opened the plastic case, expecting nothing more than a few shiny old coins. But what he found inside made his heart race. The letters on the coin looked different, blurry, doubled. He thought it was his imagination, but when he looked closer under a magnifying glass, he realized he was staring at the legendary 1971 double-die obverse penny. Collectors were stunned when the first one hit the market. The doubling on the word liberty and the date 1971 wasn't just slight. It was bold and unmistakable. You could see it with the naked eye. And when it sold, it didn't go for a few hundred or even a few $1,000s. It soared into the six-figure range, eventually climbing to a market value now estimated at over $1.1 million for the finest known specimen. It's not gold, it's not silver, it's copper. What gives it power is rarity. During the minting process, the die that stamped Lincoln's portrait shifted ever so slightly between strikes. That microscopic misalignment caused every word and number on the coin's front to appear doubled. The mint never caught it. And for decades, collectors believed no such 1971 error-proof pennies existed, until one surfaced and shattered that myth. Experts believe more of these million-dollar coins are still out there, sitting quietly in old proof sets, tucked away in attics, forgotten by time. The kind of coin you could find when you least expect it. Maybe in a box your grandfather left behind, or at a flea market where someone's selling old proof sets for 20 bucks a piece. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word spread, dealers and treasure hunters went into a frenzy, tearing open proof sets, hunting for that telltale doubling on Lincoln's profile. The U.S. Mint even had to issue statements explaining how such an error could escape detection, and yet, to this day, no one knows exactly how many were made. Some experts say fewer than 10 exist. Others believe dozens might still be hiding in plain sight. A coin so small, yet capable of changing your life forever. One that slipped past mint inspectors, traveled through time, and ended up in the hands of an unsuspecting collector who almost tossed it aside. That's what makes the story of the 1971 penny almost unbelievable, because it's a reminder that the extraordinary can hide inside the ordinary. Now, here's what you need to look for. First, the mint mark. That tells you it was struck in San Francisco as a proof coin. Second, the doubling. Focus on the words liberty and in God we trust. On the rare double die version, the letters appear thick and shadowed, as if printed twice. The date, 1971, also shows the same doubling, especially on the 7 and 1. If you see that, don't blink. You might be holding a million-dollar treasure, but there's one mistake collectors make all the time. They confuse regular machine doubling with the true double die. Machine doubling looks flat, almost like a shadow pressed against the letters. The real double die, though, shows rounded, distinct edges, almost like two sets of letters perfectly layered over each other. That's the difference between a few dollars and over 1 million. Collectors who've seen one in person say it's almost hypnotic, the way the doubled design catches the light, revealing the error that shouldn't exist. Some even call it the ghost image of Lincoln's penny, a rare echo from the mint's machines that defied perfection. And every time another one surfaces, the price jumps higher, because demand for this coin never fades. Dealers are still searching, collectors are still dreaming, and treasure hunters are still combing through boxes of proof sets hoping to strike gold. Or in this case, copper gold. Because as crazy as it sounds, a simple 1-cent coin, made over 50 years ago, can still change your life overnight. And here's the truth. No one really knows when the next one will appear. It could be tomorrow. It could be today. It could be sitting right now in your drawer, hiding among old coins you haven't looked at in years. So take a moment. Pull out those old proof sets, grab a magnifying glass, and look closely at your 1971 Lincoln pennies. Because the difference between a common coin and a fortune is just a few tiny lines of doubling. And history has proven that sometimes the smallest details hide the biggest rewards. But instead, it became one of the most talked about discoveries in modern coin history. A 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny that sold for over $1.2 million. Now, before you think, it's just a regular penny, let me stop you right there. Because this one wasn't supposed to exist. And the story behind it. How a single missing mint mark changed everything. We'll make you check every penny you've ever held in your life. It all started with a routine batch at the Philadelphia Mint in 1989. Nothing out of the ordinary, or so they thought. Billions of pennies were being struck, with most bearing the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and no mint mark to show they came from Philadelphia. But one particular penny had something no other coin that year should have had. A subtle, almost invisible flaw that would later make collectors' jaws drop. The man who found it wasn't a dealer or a numismatic expert. He was just an ordinary guy from Ohio who kept change in a coffee can by his garage. One day, while sorting through coins to roll up for the bank, something about one penny caught his eye. It looked off. The color, the strike, the way Lincoln's bust reflected the light, all just slightly different. He almost tossed it aside, but something told him to hold on to it. Months later, curiosity got the better of him. He took that penny to a local coin shop. The dealer took one look through the magnifying glass and froze. Then he said 5 words that would change the man's life. "You need to get this graded." But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the grading results came back, experts confirmed what few believed possible. This 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny wasn't just rare. It was a minting mystery. It had been struck on a transitional planchet, the wrong kind of metal, a mix of copper and zinc that shouldn't have been used at that point in production. Even more shocking, the details on Lincoln's bust were sharply doubled, a near-perfect double die error that occurred because the coin's design was struck twice by the die, just slightly off each time. That microscopic mistake transformed a 1-cent coin into a 7-figure prize. The man who found it, he sold it at auction for $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to check their inventory. The Philadelphia Mint itself had no record of such an error. It was a ghost coin, born from a 1 in a billion accident. And since then, only a handful of similar 1989 pennies have surfaced, each showing signs of die doubling or off-metal composition. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Most people walk right past these coins. They see a 1989 penny and assume it's worthless. But that tiny difference in strike, that slightly thicker lettering, or the deeper impression around Lincoln's face, that's the clue. Experts say the easiest way to spot one is to check for unusually sharp detail around Lincoln's eye and mouth. The "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" inscriptions should appear thicker, almost shadowed. Flip it over. The Lincoln Memorial lines may look slightly doubled or blurred. And if your coin feels just a little heavier or lighter than normal, that's another sign it might have been struck on the wrong metal planchet. But what happened to that original coin after the auction shocked everyone? The buyer, an anonymous investor, reportedly locked it away in a private vault. Rumor has it he turned down offers from major museums, saying it was his piece of American luck. Imagine that. A penny, once lost in a coffee can, now worth more than a mansion. Some believe the mint accidentally struck a small batch, perhaps a few dozen coins, before correcting the die. If that's true, one of those coins could be hiding in your pocket change right now. That's the power of stories like this. They remind us that fortune doesn't always come wrapped in gold or diamonds. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight. Copper, worn, and forgotten. So next time you get change at the grocery store, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely at every 1989 coin. Examine the details. Feel the surface. Because the man who once thought he had a pile of junk change ended up holding $1 million miracle in the palm of his hand. And here's how to be sure. Look for a 1989 penny with no mint mark. Examine it under bright light for doubling on the date or letters. Weigh it if you can. Errors often vary slightly in weight. And if something feels off, trust your gut. Take it to a reputable coin dealer or grading company. But when collectors found out what it really was, jaws dropped across the country. This little brown coin from 1955, with a small D mint mark under the date, turned out to be worth up to $1.3 million. And the story behind it might be the most shocking in U.S. coin history. It all began in the heart of Denver, back in 1955. The U.S. Mint was working overtime, striking millions of Lincoln wheat pennies to keep up with the booming post-war economy. Workers were exhausted, machines were worn, and that's when it happened. A tiny mechanical error that no one noticed. Somewhere in that rush, a few coins were struck with a bizarre imperfection, one so subtle that even the mint inspectors missed it. But collectors today would do anything to get their hands on one. At first glance, it looks like any other 1955 penny. Lincoln's familiar face, the classic wheat stalks on the back, a warm copper tone that feels like nostalgia itself. But then your eyes catch something strange, the lettering, the date, the mint mark. Something doesn't look right. The D, under 1955, seems oddly shaped. The number 5 looks slightly doubled, and under certain light, you can almost feel the metal telling its secret. Decades later, one of these mysterious coins surfaced at a small estate sale in Kansas. A collector picked it up for just a few cents, tossing it into a jar of common wheat pennies. But when he examined it under magnification, his heart nearly stopped. The doubling wasn't just minor, it was dramatic. The date and the word liberty were so clearly doubled that it looked like two impressions overlapping. Experts confirmed it was an ultra-rare 1955 D mint error, one of only a handful known to exist. That simple penny sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, collectors began tearing through their change jars, hoping to strike gold in copper form. One man in California found a near-perfect specimen with a sharp, full strike and minimal wear. When it went to auction, it didn't just break expectations, it shattered them. The hammer fell at over $1.3 million. A coin once worth a single cent now worth more than most homes. The mystery deepened as numismatists debated how such an error could escape the mint. Some say it was the result of a doubled die, two impressions of the same design slightly off alignment, creating that ghostly shadow effect on the letters and date. Others believe the error occurred during the die hubbing process, where two master hubs collided imperfectly. Whatever the cause, this coin has become a legend, a minting mistake that turned into a millionaire's treasure. Collectors were shocked to learn that these pennies could hide in plain sight. Dealers rushed to get their hands on any 1955 D Lincoln wheat cent, examining them under bright lamps, hunting for that unmistakable doubling. Some came close, minor die shifts, tiny distortions, but true examples are as rare as lightning striking twice. But here's the real twist. For years, people believed only the Philadelphia Mint produced the famous 1955 doubled die. The discovery of a Denver Mint variation rewrote the history books. It proved that errors weren't limited to one location, that a tiny moment of imperfection in any mint could create a $1 million masterpiece. And that means any ordinary-looking penny could be the next big find. Imagine the thrill. You open an old drawer, find a handful of wheat pennies, and one of them gleams just a little differently. The D looks a bit off, the date seems thicker than it should be, and suddenly your pulse starts racing. That's exactly how one collector described the moment he realized he was holding a fortune. He said it felt like time froze, like the coin itself was whispering, "You found me." 1955 with a clear D mint mark just below it. Under magnification, check the numbers and letters for bold doubling. especially the word liberty and in God we trust. The doubling should be strong, crisp, and visible to the naked eye if you tilt the coin under light. Also, pay attention to the color and surface. Authentic examples are made of 95% copper, weighing about 3.11 grams. If yours matches those specs and shows doubling, you could be holding one of the rarest coins ever made. But be careful. The market is full of counterfeits, fake double dies created by damage or post-mint alterations. True mint errors have clean, raised doubling formed during striking, not scratches or flattening from wear. If you find one that looks promising, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't rush to sell it. Get it authenticated by a trusted grading company. The right certification could turn your penny into a $1 million payday. It's incredible to think that something so small could hold so much history and so much value. The 1955 D. Lincoln Wheat penny stands as proof that fortune favors the observant. A mistake made 70 years ago has changed lives, created millionaires, and sparked endless treasure hunts across America. And right now, as you listen, there's a chance that one of these rare pennies is sitting quietly in your collection, waiting to be discovered. The next person to find one won't just be lucky, they'll be rewriting coin history. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when a collector spotted something unusual beneath its date, his heart nearly stopped. That tiny detail turned an ordinary 1996 D. Lincoln penny into a fortune, a coin now worth up to $1.4 million. But that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Because this coin, minted nearly 3 decades ago, hides a mystery most collectors have never even heard about. A minting mistake so rare, even professional graders missed it the first time around. Denver, 1996. Billions of Lincoln pennies rolling off the presses, the hum of machines echoing across the mint floor. But in the chaos of mass production, a few coins slipped through with a flaw invisible to the naked eye at first glance. Those few coins would later send shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. One man, a small-town collector from Kansas, discovered his by pure accident. He was sorting through a jar of old change, the kind we all have sitting somewhere, when he noticed the D mint mark on one penny looked slightly off. He thought maybe it was just dirt, but under a magnifier, he realized this was no ordinary mint mark. The D had a double impression, a rare and valuable doubling error that can make a coin worth a small fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first one sold privately for hundreds of thousands. But the real shock came later, when another example surfaced at auction and broke the $1 million mark. That's right, a 1-cent coin sold for over $1 million. It comes down to how minting errors happen and how some manage to survive without anyone noticing. In this case, during the die production process, the mint accidentally struck the die twice, slightly misaligned. Every coin made from that die carried the subtle doubling around the date and the mint mark. The result? A collector's dream hidden in plain sight. Most people who've held this coin never knew what they had. Imagine how many of these have been spent, dropped, or left behind, their owners completely unaware they were holding a ticket to a $1 million discovery. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first major auction, coin dealers everywhere began re-examining their inventories. Old boxes of pennies, forgotten rolls, jars of change, all being checked for that rare doubling on the 1996 D. Some even claimed new variations had been found, each one slightly different, each one potentially worth thousands. The mint never released an official statement explaining how the error occurred, which only fueled the mystery. Was it a one-time mistake, or were a few dozen of these coins released accidentally? No one knows for sure. That uncertainty, that thrill of the unknown, is what drives collectors wild. One story that spread like wildfire among collectors was about a retired machinist who discovered one in an old coffee can. He'd been saving change for decades, not for collecting, but just because he never liked carrying coins. One day, while watching TV, he saw a news story about the 1996 D penny. He went to check his can, and there it was, the same doubling around the date. After verification, his coin was valued at nearly $1.4 million. That single penny changed his life forever. Think about that for a second. A coin most of us wouldn't bend down to pick up could make you a millionaire overnight. That's why this particular penny has become legendary among collectors. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Not all 1996 D pennies with doubling are worth millions, and that's where people make mistakes. There are plenty of machine doubling examples out there, which look similar but have no real value. Machine doubling appears flat, shelf-like, almost like a shadow. True die doubling, on the other hand, has thickness and definition. You can see the split in the numbers and letters under magnification. If you've got a 1996 penny with a D mint mark, grab a magnifier or a jeweler's loupe. Look closely at the date, especially the 9 and the 6, and at the D. If you see any signs of a doubled image, strong lines, or thickness, don't spend that coin. Don't even clean it. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Instead, place it in a soft holder, take clear photos, and contact a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are paying top dollar, and verified examples have skyrocketed in recent years. The price jump from a few thousand to over $1 million happened in less than a decade. That's the power of rarity combined with mystery, the two things that make coin collecting so addictive. But what happened after those record-breaking sales surprised everyone again. New collectors, inspired by these stories, started searching through their old jars of change. Pawn shops reported people bringing in pennies by the bucket. Coin shows began hosting Error Coin Challenge tables, where anyone could bring in a coin for free evaluation. And yes, a few more examples surfaced, each time sparking another wave of excitement. You can almost feel the suspense building each time one appears. Could the next discovery be sitting right now in someone's kitchen drawer? Could it be you? That's the beauty of it. Every collector, every hobbyist, every casual change saver suddenly has a shot at uncovering a hidden treasure that let's not forget. In 1996, the mint was producing billions of pennies, yet only a handful have shown this doubling error. That means the odds are tiny, but the potential reward is enormous. And that's what keeps collectors awake at night, checking every coin under the light, searching for that one magical imperfection. There's also speculation that some of these coins may have been part of test strikes or transitional dies, experimental batches that somehow made it into circulation. That theory, while unproven, adds another layer of intrigue. Imagine finding one of those and knowing you've got a piece of US mint history that was never meant to exist. And here's a detail most people miss. The coin's condition matters almost as much as the error itself. A 1996 D double die in worn condition might fetch tens of thousands, but in pristine mint state with full red color and sharp detail, it can soar into the millions. That's why preservation is everything. Handle with care, use gloves, and never rub or polish the surface. Collectors often say that coins like this are like time machines. They carry history, mystery, and value all in one tiny circle of copper. Each one tells a story, not just of the minting process, but of the people who found them, the luck they had, and the lives that changed because of them. When the first 1996 D million-dollar penny hit the headlines, the story inspired thousands. It reminded everyone that treasure isn't always buried deep underground. Sometimes, it's sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice. So, if you're watching this and thinking, that'll never happen to me, think again. Every great discovery starts with someone who thought the same thing. Check your change. Look closely at that 1996 D penny. Study the mint mark, the date, the fine lines around Lincoln's face. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1.4 million might be smaller than a scratch of a fingernail. This coin has changed lives, rewritten price records, and turned ordinary people into overnight millionaires. And the most incredible part? Many experts believe more are still out there, waiting to be found. Your next trip to the grocery store, your next handful of change, it could hold your very own million-dollar miracle. The 1996 D Lincoln penny proves that sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest surprises. But when one man took a closer look, he realized he was holding something that would change his life. A 1985 D Lincoln penny worth up to $1.5 million at first glance. It looked like any other coin. Dull, scratched, maybe worth 1 cent if you're lucky. But hidden beneath that worn copper surface was a secret so rare that even seasoned collectors didn't believe it at first. You see, the 1985 D Lincoln penny hides one of the most mysterious and valuable minting errors in modern American history. It all started in Denver, 1985. The U.S. Mint was running at full capacity, striking billions of pennies to meet the country's demand for small change. But somewhere along the line, something went wrong. A few coins, just a handful, were struck using the wrong metal planchets. Instead of the normal copper-plated zinc composition, a rare few were minted on bronze planchets left over from years past. That small, nearly invisible difference is the key that turns a 1-cent coin into a $1 million treasure. But here's where it gets wild. For decades, no one knew these error coins existed. They circulated quietly through vending machines, gas stations, and pockets all across America. Some were spent, lost, and forgotten. Others sat in coffee cans, waiting for someone with sharp eyes to notice that the color, weight, and sound were just a little off. One collector did. He was sorting through old rolls of pennies one night, the kind of hobby that most people would call boring, when he spotted something strange. The coin looked darker, heavier. When he dropped it on the table, it didn't make that high-pitched ping you expect from a modern penny. It rang like an old coin, solid, almost musical. His heart started racing, but he waited. It came in at 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. That difference confirmed his suspicion. This wasn't a normal zinc penny. It was struck on a leftover bronze planchet, a minting error so rare that only a few have ever been confirmed. And the last one like it? It sold for over $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could a penny from 1985, a year everyone thought was completely ordinary, hide such a treasure? But the story doesn't end there. As word spread, more people started checking their old coins, hoping lightning might strike twice. Some found lightly doubled dies, others found off-center strikes, and a few discovered what experts now call transitional errors, the rare crossover coins created during material changes at the mint. These are the kinds of coins that rewrite history and redefine what collectors thought possible. But here's the catch. Most people miss the signs. The difference is subtle, almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. The first clue is color. The bronze 1985 D penny has a richer, darker tone compared to the more orange-tinted zinc versions. When tilted under light, it gives off a slightly reddish hue that looks older than it should. The second clue is weight. A simple digital scale can tell you everything. If it reads around 3.11 grams, congratulations, you might be holding a bronze planchet error. But if it reads closer to 2.5, that's a standard zinc penny. That small difference can separate a penny worth 1 cent from one worth $1.5 million. The third clue is the sound. Tap the coin gently on a hard surface. Zinc pennies have a short, dull clink. Bronze pennies? They ring. It's the kind of sound you never forget once you've heard it, like a note of history echoing from another time. But the most mysterious part of this story lies in how these coins escaped the mint in the first place. Experts believe a few leftover bronze blanks from 1982, when the U.S. switched from copper to zinc, were accidentally fed into the presses in Denver during 1985. They were struck, packaged, and released into circulation with no one realizing what had just happened. Think about that for a second. A simple oversight, a tiny mix-up on the production line, and suddenly, a few ordinary pennies become priceless relics of American minting history. And it gets even more fascinating. One of these 1985 D errors reportedly surfaced at an estate sale in Colorado. The seller had no idea what it was. They just wanted to clear out old boxes of coins their grandfather collected. A local dealer bought the entire lot for under $100. When he later sent that one strange-looking penny to be graded, it came back certified as a genuine bronze planchet error. The value? Estimated at over $1.5 million. Imagine that, finding a single coin that could buy a house, a car, and still leave you with a retirement fund. All from something most people would walk past without a second thought. And the more collectors talk about it, the more people are rushing to check their 1985 D pennies. Roll hunters, estate buyers, and even metal detector hobbyists are all on the lookout. Because history has shown us something incredible. The rarest treasures often hide in plain sight. But here's what most people don't realize. Even if your 1985 D penny isn't a bronze planchet error, other valuable varieties exist. Look closely for a doubled die obverse, where Lincoln's profile or lettering shows faint doubling under magnification. Some of these errors can be worth hundreds or even thousands. And if your penny shows a repunched mint mark, that tiny D stamped twice, it could still be worth a small fortune to the right buyer. Coin experts say that only a few of the true bronze 1985 D pennies have ever been authenticated, which means there could still be more out there, sitting quietly in drawers, jars, or forgotten coin rolls waiting for discovery. Every time someone finds one, it reignites the thrill of the hunt. The excitement that maybe, just maybe, your next handful of change could contain a life-changing treasure to own next time you grab a coffee and get a few pennies back. Take a closer look. That little brown coin in your hand might just carry a secret worth $1.5 million.